Do you want to learn effective ways to build relationships, generate sales, and grow your business from successful entrepreneurs, startups, and CEOs without listening to a long interview? If so, you've come to the right place. Gresham Harkless values your time and is ready to share with you precisely the information you're in search of. This is the I Am CEO podcast.
Hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Alexandra Caspero of Delish Knowledge and Plant-Based Juniors. Alexandra, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Super excited to have you on. And what I wanted to do was just read a little bit more about Alexandra so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And Alexandra is owner of Delish Knowledge and author of Fresh Italian Cooking for the New Generation. Her award-winning blog, Delish Knowledge, focuses on making whole food, vegetarian eating deliciously simple. She is the co-founder of Plant-Based Juniors, an evidence-based platform that helps parents navigate the world of plant-based prenatal and pediatric nutrition. Additionally, she is the co-author of Joyful Eating, Nourished Life, which helps others discover a happier, healthier relationship with food and their body. Alexandra, are you ready to speak to the IMCO community?
Yes, so excited to be here.
Awesome. Super excited to have you on as well. So I wanted to kick everything off with what I call your CEO story and what led you to start your business.
Yeah, awesome. So, funny enough, I actually started my business as a hobby. I started my blog back in 2010, and this was really sort of at the time where there were some people who were making their blogs into business, but that wasn't the norm. So the days of Blogger and WordPress, most people were using the free version. And I really started it just as a way to communicate with my friends and family back home. I was in grad school in California. I had left Virginia, and I was lonely and doing a lot of cooking. And so it was just sort of a fun way for me to share those experiments, share those recipes. And then from there, it kind of slowly built into a business. And I would say about 2014, I started realizing that, okay, there was definitely a potential here for incoming revenue. I was getting the attention of different brands and companies, start doing some sponsored work. And at that point, I kind of told my husband, okay, I want 1 year. I want a year to see if I can make this a viable business. And if I can't, that's okay. I'll keep doing kind of my day job. But if I can, then, that was sort of my number to myself. So I did it. In 1 year, I was able to surpass what I was making at my current job. And, I sort of say the rest is history. And then, when it comes to Plant-Based Juniors, that really was designed out of a pain point. I was pregnant with my son. I had been eating a mostly plant-based diet for most of my life at that point. And I was just having a really hard time finding actual recommendations that were based on science when it came to how to raise a baby, mostly plant-based, and also what that looked like as far as pregnancy. And so I teamed up with another dietitian to sort of form this community, this platform. We could help translate the science into what other moms and other parents needed.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And I love how, I'm a big blogger myself. So I always love how, starting out as a hobby or just something you're using to explore, and then it blossoms into a business and then another business. And I love the fact that they're all kind of combined. It's not like you're doing two separate things, but they're all kind of in the same pool, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely an overlap. And, I always say if I had started my blog with the intention of it being a business, I would have done things so differently. But there is sort of beauty in hindsight, and starting it mostly as a hobby without any intention of ever making a dollar from it really kind of, I think, allowed me to make mistakes without there ever being any pressure because it wasn't designed to be a business at first. But I'm thankful that almost 10 years later it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've read like a lot of statistics and stuff, and it said that it does take a long time to build up the following, to build up a blog, build up anything really, but especially like a blog. So sometimes at least for me, I'll speak for myself. If I had thought about it being a business in the very beginning, it may not have lasted very long.
Yeah. I think there's beauty in sort of that grace of there's no, certain endpoint that you're having to meet or you have to meet in order to pay the bills. There's a lot more creativity, I think, sometimes when you're allowed the freedom to let it just be something that you're actually passionate about instead of having to combine that passion with the bottom line.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's when really creative things happen. And I know you definitely know
Mm-hmm.
this from, your blog and of course, Plant-Based Junior. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about both of those and what exactly people can find.
Yeah, so Delish Knowledge is really just sort of your average blog in a sense. And what I mean by that is I don't have a lot of specific resources and services that are paid. I make most of my money from that service just based on content from ad revenue. And so that's nice because it really allows me to deliver a lot of free content to readers, to subscribers, without them having to feel like they have to buy into anything. And that business model with my traffic has really allowed me to create a sustainable income without having to branch out too much and really kind of dive into what my subscribers are asking for and giving them that information in a free way. There's sort of I think a win-win for both parties there. And then when it comes to plant-based juniors, that's a little more nuanced. So that community, even though we started it a year ago, in just 1 year, I've grown it to about the same level as Delish Knowledge is, which has been in existence for over 9 years. And I think a lot of that is really serving my niche. The people that are, coming to plant-based juniors are parents. They are individuals who are either interested in eating plant-based, eating, semi-plant-based, fully plant-based, whatever that means to them, but they really want guidance, and they're tired and they're frustrated by seeing, sort of mixed messages online and not showing where to trust. And I think that we've been able to build a really strong, really engaged community because we're giving them exactly what they want. And through that, we have a few different services. We've got a pregnancy guide that kind of walks someone through all the stages of pregnancy, trimester by trimester, all the things to be concerned about, supplements, exercise guides, etc. And then we also have a feeding course when it comes to infants. So, a lot of the questions that are wrapped up in how to feed and what foods are okay and different methods, we combine into a paid course for participants there.
That makes perfect sense. And correct me if I'm wrong. Do you find that because you had the blog, you were able to create content, like you said, it wasn't so like revenue based, just value based, that it was able to help you kind of laser focus a little bit more through Plant-Based Juniors?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And really, I think that's the heart of it, right? Is providing the value. I kind of look at both of those communities, both those businesses as having a lot of overlap there. When it comes to Delish Knowledge, my value is in providing healthy recipes from a dietitian. There's sort of that inherent trust in there. And I do that in a free way because, again, I have ads on my website that pay and help support that business. When it comes to plant-based juniors, again, we're creating so much valuable content. We've decided to package it a little bit differently. So for people that need that information, they're able to receive it.
Makes perfect sense. And you might have already touched on this, but I wanted to ask you for what I call your secret sauce. And this could be for you or your organization, but what do you feel kind of makes you unique?
Yeah, so I would say for both plant-based juniors and for Delish Knowledge, we kind of hone in on this idea of evidence-based. And especially in a world where there are so many nutrition influencers and other dietitians and people in the wellness and health space, I think really being sort of the cornerstone of evidence-based is helpful. And what I mean by that is, even though I think that a predominantly plant-based diet has a whole host of benefits, I'm not strict on the dogma. I want to make sure the science matches up, and in instances where it doesn't, I'm very open about that and I talk about that. And I think that can be kind of refreshing, where I'm not trying to push a certain diet type. I'm really just trying to push the science. And nutrition is a science. It's confusing. It can be complicated sometimes. It can be really simple sometimes, and it can also be a lot to wade through. I sometimes joke that I've got 2 nutrition degrees, and even sometimes reading a study, it's like, I don't understand what's happening. I'm not sure what the methodology is here or how they got these results. And so I really try to take it from the standpoint of, I can sit here in my office, I can read the studies day to day and figure out what's going on and what the overall message can be, and then I can translate it in a really simple consumer-ready format. And I think that is sort of my secret sauce is, I talk to my participants, my readers, as someone who is interested and some of the science and some of the why behind the nutrition recommendations, but I also do it in a way where they don't have to study. They don't have to, read anything. They can just kind of trust that everything that they're getting from from plant-based tuners and from Delish Knowledge is credible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that idea of being evidence-based and having that information, because like you said, a lot of times it's very confusing, because sometimes you'll read one thing and then you'll hit refresh on the page or refresh on the search and it's something completely different. So it gets very confusing.
Well, and some of that is true. Some studies show one thing, other studies show another thing, and it can be really frustrating, I think, to the average consumer on what they're supposed to believe. And, I think sort of coming from that evidence-based place where it's like, hey, look, here's what we know. There might not be a concrete answer, but here is all of the evidence out there. And based on this is what I recommend.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that definitely, to me, helps build a lot of trust. And definitely, as of course you have seen your following growing, just because you are being transparent and doing it based off the facts, so that people can kind of make their own decisions, but you give them all the evidence they need. Yeah.
I think that's really, really been helpful for both businesses.
Absolutely. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient.
Yeah, so my sort of go-to program that I think really helped transform both businesses is 90 Day Year, and that's by Todd Herman. I'm assuming that has been spoken quite often, because I feel like when I talk to other business owners, I hear over and over again, yes, that really changed my perspective too. And what I love most about 90 Day Year is it's really a system that helps you prioritize what you need to do and what you can hire other people to do. And I think that, as so many CEOs know, there's so much that needs to get done. And it can be really easy to get in the weeds when you're trying to figure out, every single step you have to do in order to run a successful business. And 90 Day Year really kind of helped me take a 10,000 foot approach to say, okay, if I can focus my time on these things, that's how I'm going to grow my business. And all these other things over here, that's what I need to hire out for, because it's going to take too much time. It's going to take too much energy for me to learn all of these things I have to do in order to make these small parts work and these small parts successful. And my time is much better spent working on sort of the big projects that are really going to drive the business to the next level. And so that one was, sort of a mind-blowing course for me.
Absolutely. No, and I think you're actually the first to mention that. I don't think
I've heard.
Yes,
well, now you know the other secret sauce.
Oh, really? Well, I was going to say, because I think I've heard somebody mention rocks and pebbles. So to make sure to not focus on the pebbles, but focus on the rocks, because they actually make an impact. So kind of along the same lines, just maybe a different.
Yes, exactly.
Or course. So now I wanted to ask you for what I call your CEO nugget. And this is a word of wisdom or piece of advice. Or if you can hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
Yeah, so I would sort of tell myself, take risk and trust your gut. I was young when I started my first company, my blog. I was in grad school still. And again, I made decisions based on the fact that I didn't know this was going to be a business. And I think if I could go back in time, I would tell myself that, you know more than you think you do. There's a lot of questions that come up, especially at sort of those crucial forks in the road where if you make this decision, this happens. If you make the wrong decision, that can set you back. And I really questioned my gut that I knew enough to make those right decisions. And unfortunately, that bit me hard, especially in the early years. And so I think if I could go back and tell myself anything, it's that, I know my business better than anyone. And so if I'm getting advice from something, or if I'm hiring someone and we're kind of at a friction and I don't agree with what they're saying, I know what I need to do more than anyone. I know my readers, I know my content, I know what I want this to be. And so if I'm getting kind of pushback that doesn't quite align with those values, then I should really trust my gut and not trust the idea that just because someone claims they're an expert, they actually know what's best for me and my business.
Absolutely. Because deep down, we often already know the answer, and we just got to, face it and follow through with it. So I think that's a great CEO nugget. And now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. So Alexandra, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Yeah, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but really I look at my job as providing value. So, everything that I do, whether it's an Instagram post, whether it's a Facebook video or a live, every single thing that I put out there, all of my content, I really try to ask myself, what value am I giving someone? I think that we are all so busy and so overwhelmed, especially in the online space, that trying to create something that has value, something that is worthy of someone's time, is really where I like to position both of my businesses. And I think that not only has helped me be really successful, because, when you're creating a lot of value, even if you're not creating a ton of content, people really gravitate towards feeling like they're getting something from you. And so in every decision that I make sort of from that CEO perch, I like to make sure that I am giving value. I'm providing something that's actually going to help someone's life and make their life a little bit better.
Absolutely. No, I definitely think that's a great perspective and a great reminder to everybody, CEOs, to always provide value and lead with value. So, Alexandra, I truly appreciate your time. What I wanted to do was pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and our listeners know, and then how best they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, well, thank you again for having me on. This podcast is so invaluable with all of the nuggets that you're providing for everyone. So thank you for doing the work. And you can find me at Delish Knowledge on most of the social media platforms, as well as at Plant-Based Juniors. And then I'm also at DelishKnowledge.com and PlantBasedJuniors.com.
Awesome. We'll make sure to have those links in the show notes as well. So thank you again, Alexandra. Have a great rest of the day.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the I Am CEO podcast, powered by Blue 16 Media. Tune in next time and visit us at IAM289.co. I Am CEO is not just a phrase, it's a community. Be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating. Grab CEO gear at www.ceogear.co. This has been the I Am CEO podcast with Gresham Harkless. Thank you for listening.